I'm very disappointed at people like Joy Reid of MSNBC who are now attempting to, talk bad about black men because, as the polls indicate, there's a large or significant group of black men who are planning to vote for Donald Trump. And Donald Trump and his campaign, along with Joe Biden and his campaign, are now signaling that black men are going to be the deciding vote. Now, remind you, for the last year and a half, it's been black women are going to hear or need to save the Democratic Party. Is they courted black women. They made all sorts of promises to black women. They even nominated Kamala Harris as a Democratic vice presidential candidate, with the understanding that Joe Biden is an old man. And he may very well not last his first term. He may retire in his first term, which will leave Kamala Harris as the president of the United States. And I know that there are a lot of black women who would look forward to that. And I have no problem with a woman or a black woman being president of the United States. I just particularly don't like Kamala Harris and her history as a prosecutor in San Francisco who put black women in jail for having children that were truant to school. And I say that because there's so much other crime she could have targeted, but she specifically chose to enact some laws or enforce laws that targeted black women and children. And that I find is despicable, and it's a bully tactic. But back to my main point. My main point is that the Democratic Party, their weak link is black men, meaning that black men are dissatisfied with the Democratic Party, and we have been for a while. In fact, if you look at the exit polls in 2016, it shows that 13% of black men voted for Donald Trump, and that was those who were willing to admit it. And so now you have a situation where there's probably up to 20% of black men who are going to vote for Donald Trump, according to the polls. And in my opinion, probably about 25 to 30% of black men who are actually going to vote for Donald Trump. But the 10% that's over and above the polls are just not willing to say so, because it's still uncouth to say so. Now, I don't support Donald Trump, nor do I support Joe Biden. And I don't support either one of them for the same reason, because I both think they're white supremacist racist, and they don't have the interests of black men at hand. But here's the thing. I can tell you this. Today is Monday, November 2nd. Nothing's going to change for black men on Thursday, by Wednesday, November 5th. Nothing's going to change. Or Wednesday, November 3rd. November 4th. Nothing's going to change for us. It's still going to be the same. We're still going to have police pulling up behind us with their sirens. We're still going to have our children being taken from us in family courts by our women. We're still going to be disenfranchised. We're still going to be talked bad about in the media. We're still going to be labeled thugs, sexual deviants, promiscuous. We're still going to be the pariahs of the American societal groups. We're still going to be that. So my question to people like Joy Reid, who talk bad about black men for choosing to vote for whatever party, Donald Trump or whoever, my question to you is, what more can you do to us that hasn't already been done? What are you sisters going to do? You don't even have the weight the grip Big Mama had. Matter of fact, a lot of these brothers don't even see eye to eye with you on many of these political issues. Matter of fact, we despise some of the positions that you all take. And even though our brothers love their daughters, they love their mothers, they love their sisters and their aunties and their grandmothers, we love you, sisters. But you guys have basically totally abandoned us when it comes to the politics of this country. You went for self. That's why you're the most educated group of women in America. You left us behind, sister. You took our children from us in family court, and some of you are proud of it. Matter of fact, many of you talk about getting the bag. What does that mean? You getting the bag from white men, Hispanic men, Asian men? No. What you're doing is you're getting the bag from brothers. You're taking them and you're getting them to buy you stuff and using them, and you're having sex with this man and that man and that man. You're not willing to get married. Many of you have what? Children out of wedlock? And I know you was going to say, well, what about the black men that have children out of wedlock? I got you. 51% of black men don't even have children. What does that tell you? That means there's only 49% of black men who possibly could have given you those children that you have. Now, I have a greater point. I'm not picking on you, sisters. I want to talk about something. Another 27% of black men, what? I'm sorry, 31% of black men are married and live with their wives. So that means you only have about 18% of black men who have children outside of wedlock here in the United States. 82% of black men are married or don't have children, whereas 80% of black women have children outside of wedlock. Now, I'm not picking on you, sister, but what I want to do is I want you to use that as a litmus test for your value system. What does that tell you about black men? It tells you they're probably pretty conservative. It tells you that the black men, and any of us who know brothers and who speak to brothers, we're pretty conservative when it comes to social issues, generally speaking. Brothers, for the most part, do not support LGBTQ policies and whatnot. We don't. That's just our position. And I know that makes us toxic and masculine and bigoted and all that. I get it. But that's just how brothers position themselves. As I said, 51% of black men aren't married and don't have children. And another 31% of black men are married with children. And that's a higher percentage of that's a higher marriage rate than black women. So it lets you know that many of these black men are conservative, and they're also physically conservative, fiscally. And that means financially. There are more black men in college than there are in prison. And I would love for there to be less black men in prison, but there are still a significant amount. But the fact that there are more black men in college and prison lets you know that we support education. Per capita, black men make up outstrip their percentage in the general population in the military. So that means we're for military service. It lets me know, and it lets anybody who's looking, who's paying attention, know that black men, for the most part, have some socially conservative ideas. The reason they don't like the Republican Party is because it's full of bigots and racists. And traditionally, at least over the past 50 years or so, they've been racist, and that's why we've been running away from them. But now when you present us with a Joe Biden who is clearly racist, and you present us with a Republican Party who's also racist, then those two factors cancel out each other. And brothers just have to figure out which one of these jerks am I going to vote for. Both of them are racist. That's what's happened. And so for people like Joy Reid to try to scare black men, you can't scare us. There's nothing that you can do to black men that hadn't already been done to us. And I'm talking about my black American brothers and sisters who have ancestors who are descended from the American slave system. And I know that we've traveled all around, and there's been a mixing, and people from the Caribbean have come to the United States, or what was the United States or the territory at the time in South America. I get that. But for the most part, what I'm talking about is those of us who sat around and listened to our stories of our grandmothers and our grandfathers and our uncles and all these people who told us the stories about how they were treated and how they were actually mistreated in this country. We know what you've done to us, the Tuskegee experiment, the locking us up, the Jim Crow, the convict lease program, how we were segregated in the military and relegated to doing janitorial work and made to feel less than men. And now we have, the dropping cocaine and drugs in our neighborhood in the 70s and 80s, and depriving us of jobs, and now the mass incarceration system. We know what has happened to us. You've taken our children from us with the family court system. You've overtaxed us. You've denied us the ability to live in neighborhoods that are safe. You've underfunded our schools. You've made us feel less than men for so long, and you've taken our freedom and our lives. So what more can you do to us? What more? How do you think you can scare somebody with death who's already embraced death? The vast majority of my generation grew up not thinking that we were going to live past 26. We have to fear the police. We have to fear each other. We have to fear our own sisters sometimes. So what else can you do to us? How do you think your little threats of retaliation and making us feel bad about our choice, how do you think that's really going to go over? It's not. Big Mama is dead. The only women that had influence on us are those women that we respected from 20 and 30 years ago. Now, of course, there are some exceptions, and there's some beautiful sisters that I love listening to and have great influence over me. But, and I know I speak the same, speak for a lot of brothers, but for the most part, y'all don't have that influence over us anymore, and you can't make us do it with fear or shame, ladies. It's over. It's over. It's not going to happen. You're looking at the rise of black men. Black male independence is on the rise because we realize you've taken everything from us that would have normally kept us on the plantation. Our family, our love, our children, you basically divested of anything, and you mock us in public. You've been doing that for the past 40 years. And now here you are coming to us on the cusp of this once in a lifetime election that's going to determine the course of America's the trajectory that America is going to take. And you ask us to save America. You ask us to go ahead and vote for Joe Biden so you all can keep your Democratic benefits and all that. You ask us to do that. You ask us the last week of the election. So you totally ignored all those factors that I mentioned earlier. You totally ignored the fact that you all, especially you sisters, you've been using our black bodies, our black men who being shot down to gain power and access. Organizations like Black Lives Matter, they wait till a black man dies and then they go jump in front of the protest and say Black Lives Matter, and then you get more money and you use that money to put LGBT people in and totally ignore black men and our plight. That's what you've done to us. So we nothing but to you guys but an opportunity. We just bodies. Even some of our sisters, our mothers, we get shot down in the street. You get a $4 or $5 million settlement, and you go on about your business being quiet. And I know that's how the system works. I understand it. I get it. I understand. But for the most part, that's still another black man dead. And I identify with that because I'm a black man. When I see a Walter Scott laid out on the grass after being shot in the back, I see myself. I see my sons. I see my uncle. That's what I see. I don't just see another black man. I see myself. And so at a certain point, you just become numb to the fear. So what do you think somebody like you, who's a pundit, Miss Joy Reid, or all these other politicians who are now, saying that, these black men, we're going to make them pay, or you'll never forgive us. We should never forgive you for the neglect that black men have had to suffer. And look, sisters, I know some of you all don't like my messages on this page. I get it. And I know you've probably never heard a raw, unfiltered version of what black men really think. But for the most part, there are a lot of brothers that think like me. And I'm not speaking on behalf of all my brothers. I'm speaking on behalf of the brothers who follow my page. I'm speaking on behalf of many of the other brothers who would like to be able to say what I say but can't, or who are in a position where they can't speak up like I can because they're not in a position. They're subject to lose their jobs. They're subject to be punished in public. And trust me, I've had repercussions myself as a result of me speaking openly. But somebody has to do it, especially when people specifically target black men. How dare you, Joy Reid? How dare you and Representative Maxine Waters? How dare you directly target black men and tell us what you're going to do to us if we don't vote for the candidate that you want us to vote for? How dare you do that? After all the atrocities that we as black men have had to suffer in this country, how dare you target us like that? How dare you diminish our thoughts and our feelings and our dedication and our contribution to this country by telling us we have to vote for who you want us to vote for? And I don't care who you brothers vote for. Okay, brothers, you vote for whoever you want to. I don't care if you vote for Trump, Biden, the Green Party. I don't care. But what I don't like is them threatening you, threatening me, threatening us, telling us what they're going to do to us. So my response to you is, it doesn't matter what you're going to do because it's already been done and we're still here. We're still here. So it's nothing that you can do to us. The retribution that you seek, I tell you, the Bible says when you dig a grave, you dig two. Because what you plan for your enemies, what you plan for us, is going to happen to you. That's what the God in my Christian Bible says. So all you sisters out there thinking you're going to do something to brothers, all that's going to happen is you're going to continue to get left alone. You wanted to be independent, you're independent. God bless you. I support you 100%. But what I won't have is for you threatening my brothers, my black brothers who've been through so much, telling us what you're going to do to us, or trying to shame us on public television and national TV because of the way we choose to voice our political opinions. That's un-American. That's about as un-American as you can get. You always are talking about American values. That is un-American as you can get, especially for somebody like Joy Reid. And I know you're not I know you're a sister from the continent, or at least your parents are from the continent. So I know you have that black immigrant understanding of America, which means you don't have that intricate understanding that people like myself have, whose ancestors I can trace back to 1808 to the King Plantation in Virginia. You don't have that understanding, and so you are out of place to be talking bad about what my black American brothers choose to do with their vote. See, black American men did slavery by ourselves largely. Those slave ships were filled with black men and black boys, and they had a few handful of black women on those slave ships all the way up until about 1808, when they began to bring black women over to the United States, specifically to make breeding farms. The reason that they had to do that is because slavery was outlawed, and the British Empire was at that point patrolling the Atlantic Ocean and targeting these slave catchers and basically trying to prevent them from stealing black people from Africa and bringing them to the United States. But all the way up until that point, and that was only 50 years or so until the Civil War happened, but all the way up until 1808, it was black men doing time here in the United States as a captured enslaved people. It was black men doing that time. That's why the population up until 1808 was only 400,000. And then by the time we got to 1860, it was 4 million. In that 50-year time period, we increased tenfold because of the breeding farms. But before that, there was just black men here. There was never any, the reason they didn't bring women over, because there was never any intention to have a black population of slave descendants here in the United States. There was never any, this was designed to be a white man's country. There was never any intention of that. This is something that happened of happenstance. This is something they figured, well, you know what, we got to do what we got to do to survive with making this money. And we need these Africans over here to work these plantations. And, you know, we need it. We need the slave labor. And so they said, well, you know, we'll hedge our bets and do what we got to do and deal with this another time. But as it is right now, we need to get more slaves over here. And that's why they, you know, decided to go with the slave breeding farms or the breeding farms. And I don't want to go into that history, but for the most part, what I'm trying to tell y'all is that it's been black men who've done this time. Up until the last 50 years of slavery, right before the Civil War happened, it was us doing our time over here. And so we paid our debt to this country. We are the most patriotic people in this country, black men. And I'm talking about my black American brothers who have died in every war that has fought in this country, who helped we fought the Indians, we fought the Mexicans, we fought the white Europeans who tried to invade Great Britain in the Revolutionary War. We fought in the Civil War, fought on both sides of the Revolutionary War. Fought in Vietnam, World War II, World War I, Korean War. We fought in every major, War of 1812. We fought in every war in the United States as second and third class citizens. We're the most incarcerated. We're the most uneducated. But yet we still get out there and help build this country. We still are the construction workers and the police officers and the lawyers and the doctors and the carpenters and the mechanics and the plumbers. We still participate in the system. And we have every right to rebel against it, but we don't. And so for somebody like Joy Reid, whose parents just got over here to this country, to tell black men or try to shame black men out of not voting or doing what they feel is in their own best interest is the most un-American thing I've heard said. And that goes for Barack Obama, and that goes for Sister Maxine Waters of Los Angeles, Representative Maxine Waters. You better than anybody else should know better. You don't do us like that. Shame on you, Maxine Waters. Shame on you, Joy Reid. I don't care who you brothers vote for. I just want you to know that you have a right to vote for your own best interest, and that you don't have to justify who you vote for. and that there's nothing that anybody can do about it. But what we won't stand for, not in 2020, going forward, is people telling black men what they can and can't do, because we're no longer on the plantations. This is a different breed that you're dealing with. Big Mama is dead. You sisters don't have the influence that you used to have. You said you wanted to be independent. You've been screaming it and hollering it for the past 40 years. You're independent now. You said that we, you know, black men are ain't nothing. And you know, I'm not going to say the curse word that y'all normally say, but you've been talking bad about us on the internet. Okay, you ran us off. That's why you got 30% of black men who are educated marry outside the race. What that means is, you know what? That means is as soon as they get an opportunity, they say, you know what? My options have expanded. I'm going to go ahead and find somebody else. And that doesn't mean that you sisters who are down with brothers and who treat your brothers with love and respect aren't deserving of a good man. That's not what that means. What I'm saying is some of these brothers are just done. You know, and it's because who wants to be with somebody who talks reckless and talks bad about them? Nobody. And you sisters know that. You know, but the main thing is you can't stop this tide from rising. You can't stop these. You've taken everything away from us. So now we're building back from nothing. And so you can't expect, you can't have it both ways. So you can't talk bad about us for the past 40 years and then turn around when you need us, you know, beg us to come back and help y'all maintain this Democratic Party power so that you can keep the benefits and tidbits and crumbs that these Democrats are giving you all. We don't benefit from those programs that you all benefit from. Matter of fact, black men, for the most part, have been ostracized from the system. So, you know, I love you guys, you know, and I want to see everybody, you know, live and find peace of mind and happiness. But what I won't stand for is people specifically targeting black men and downing us and talking bad about us and telling us what we can't do when we're perfectly within our rights to exercise our vote as we choose. Now, you know, you all might start talking bad about me. For the most part, I don't really care. You know, I'm not a Trump supporter. I'm not a Biden supporter. I have my reasons for not supporting Biden. I have my reasons for not supporting Trump. All of you all can look at my old videos and see why. But my main point is this. I'm an advocate for black men. And I arrived at that position organically because number one, I am a black man. And number two, I have 3 black sons. And number three, there's nobody else out there advocating on behalf of black men specifically. Our needs are not the same as black women. But what I won't stand for is you guys continually to deride us and talk reckless about us in public. That needs to be addressed. It needs to be dealt with. And I implore you, brothers, that when you hear somebody talking bad about black men, you immediately check them. To be respectful, be articulate, be well-spoken, but you check them, you put them in their place until they get to the point where they realize that every time they rise up to say something bad about black men, it's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, or 10 black men who respond to them. And that's the way you keep all that chatter down. Because, see, we have been losing the war of public opinion for years. But it's time for you brothers to use the resources that you have, use the tools, use your smartphones that you have to speak up on behalf of yourselves, man. Nobody's going to save us. We are on our own. You have to save yourself, black man. Let me say that again. You have to save yourself, black man. Jesus is not coming out of the sky to do it. The white man is definitely not going to do it. Neither is the Asian man or the Hispanic man, and neither is your own black sisters. You got to save yourself, and you need to use your voice that God gave you, and you need to begin to speak up on behalf of your own self. Educate yourself on the issues. Educate yourself on the current events. And you begin to speak. And I don't care if you're wrong or not. You speak your mind, and you speak your truth, and you speak the truth. And you tell people what you think. Because we're not going to, we don't need to sit around and let these things happen to us anymore, because nobody's looking out for our best interests. We are literally all we have. God bless you. I love you. This is Attorney Dennis Sperling. I'm out.